We'd love to tell you what this podcast is about, but the truth is, we don't know. The CW Pod, at home on Iowa Everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed, seedsmanship at work.
What's up, guys? Happy, what is today? Tuesday, the 2nd of May. This isn't really breaking news or anything like that. It's just, I don't have another show on here scheduled until Thursday, and my feed's been blowing up with this Mexico City Big 12 stuff. So I thought I would do a shorter pod here for the CW pod and kind of chime in with my thoughts on this. I do have a lot of thoughts on this. This is kind of right in my wheelhouse as far as stuff that I care about. So we'll get to that. I want to thank our sponsor, Circus Sports. Circus Sports Iowa for all of your sports betting needs. I cashed a winner yesterday in NASCAR, which was cool. I highly encourage you all to download that Circus Sports Iowa app, especially if you like those sports this time of year. I don't want to call them fringe sports, the more niche sports, NASCAR, golf, that type of stuff. Really good odds, and I compare them all the time. You're getting better odds with our friends at Circa. Go back and listen to that pod that I did with Jeffrey Benson from before the Masters, and he explains how and why. All right, my thoughts on this Big 12 report. I'm just going to read directly from Dennis Dodd, Hassel's colleague from CBS here. And he wasn't the first to break this. I think Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated was. Whatever, it's all over the place. This is what Dennis writes. The Big 12 plans to enter into a multi-sport agreement to play regular season football and men's basketball games in Mexico beginning in 2024. Sources confirmed to CBS Dennis Dodd. Monterrey for football and Mexico City for basketball have been identified for potential host cities, and there are future plans to add women's basketball, women's soccer, and baseball. There's some other stuff in here about playing Kansas Houston in basketball. A couple of really good programs, obviously. Listen, you guys know I'm a Big 12 guy. I like a lot of the things Yormark has done here. To me, this is a massive reach, knowing what we know. Okay, so there's one way in all of this that I think the Big 12, where I could at least get on board with this. And that's if Yormark would just come out and say, you hired me to maximize revenue, that's what I'm doing. All right. I don't have an answer to that because it's true. But I just, again, knowing what I know right now, and it's a bunch of surface level information, the way I look at college athletics, specifically a lot of these Big 12 schools, Iowa State being one of them, Kansas being one of them, Houston, all of these schools are really similar because if they were these giant fan bases, they wouldn't be in the Big 12. We need to identify that as a fact as we go into this conversation. But the business model for these institutions and for college athletics in general is passion. It's, okay, let's just throw out Oklahoma State football doesn't have as many fans as the Dallas Cowboys. No crap. But the fans that they do have are rabid and will follow you all over the country and do whatever you ask. That's the same with Iowa State. Go to the Big Ten. That's the same with the University of Iowa. That's the same as Nebraska. That's the business model. There might be fewer of them than the Buffalo Bills, but these people are nuts. And they're going to buy season tickets, and they're going to donate to the athletic department, and they're going to pay now they're doing the collectives, and there's all this stuff that goes into it, and they will do it because they're nuts. And this is why we get the consistent television ratings and all that stuff. I've told this story before. Remember back in the day when college football games, there was always a select group of them were on pay-per-view every weekend, those non-conference games. There's a reason they targeted Oklahoma and Nebraska every week, because their fan bases are dumb enough to pay $75 to watch Oklahoma beat up on Southeastern Louisiana State or whoever, okay? That's the business model. By the Big 12 moving and going into Mexico, I'm struggling to identify what the business model is here, other than, again, one, which is what I want your Mark to say, you asked me to maximize revenue, I'm maximizing revenue. I can't argue with that. I'm okay with that. And for the record, your Mark has not gone on the record yet. So I'll give him the benefit of doubt until we hear something. What I think they're going to say is we're trying to be global. We're trying to increase our brand to be a global brand, because I thought it was international, because, they were doing the whole East Coast to West Coast thing, 4 time zones, where you get to the Pac-12 expansion, all that. Well, this is international. Now, I can hear some of you saying, well, Nebraska and Northwestern, they played in, where they go to Ireland last year. Well, that's like a one-time deal, and that's a cool place to go. And again, you bring in one of those rabid fan bases that will do anything. That's Nebraska. That's an easy sell to me. This is going to be like a multi-year thing. We're going to be taking women's soccer and college baseball to Mexico? Why? Are Mexican citizens all of a sudden going to be enamored by Texas Tech's baseball team? Oh man, we got to get our Red Raider gear. Man, we are going to stock up on Kansas State women's basketball gear. No, like that it's not a travel destination. I don't think it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some of you out there who's like, yeah, I'd go watch a game in Mexico City. I wouldn't. I'll give your Mark this. It's untapped. I don't know anyone else has done this other than the NFL, and that's another thing. Like, there are differences, and you have to acknowledge the differences between the NFL and what you're trying to do. That's a global brand. That actually makes sense. That actually makes sense to take the NFL to Europe. I still don't like it, and that's what I'm going to get into here in a minute. I really don't like this with specifically football and men's basketball. These communities, especially in this league, are quite small in the whole scheme of things. And they rely on home games. And I know, again, that is not Commissioner Yormark's job. What is his job? His job is to maximize revenue for the conference. This might be doing that. I don't know what the details are. My guess is the Big 12 is going to get paid to do this. And if he just comes out and says that, again, I'm going to be like, you know what? I don't like it, but I get it. I just don't want to hear any of this. Well, we really need to grow our brand globally. You're wasting your time. Central Florida football is really going to take off in Mexico City. Come on. What, are you going to pick up ESPN Plus subscribers out of this? I'm struggling to understand this. I'm just struggling. And I'll leave the door open. Maybe he's going to come out and he's going to tell me all this stuff that'll change my mind. Unless it's just strictly money. Come on, that's what this is. I don't think they'll say that, though. That's why I would respect the move, though. If they just came out and said, well, again, what do we want to hear from Commissioner Yormark? I want the truth. You paid me, you hired me to go get the bag, and that's what I'm doing. I just don't buy that Big 12 football, men's or women's basketball, or soccer are going to be a big deal in Mexico. I don't think you're going to grow your fan bases. In fact, I think these are the types of things that kind of turn off fan bases, frankly. I'm an Iowa State fan. I don't want to lose a home game to Mexico City. Because you're sure as hell not going to play one of the dumb bye games there in the basketball season. You're probably going to take Iowa State and another prominent opponent. I don't want to see Iowa State play Cincinnati and Mexico City for basketball. Why the hell would I want that? The atmosphere is worse. I can't go to it, and it takes away your home field advantage, your home court advantage. You only get 6 or 7 home football games a year. How many of these campuses in these cities, sans maybe Orlando and Cincinnati, a couple of these newer ones are not necessarily college towns. Can Lawrence in Manhattan and Ames and Stillwater and Lubbock just be like, yeah, take a home game. We'll take it to Monterey. Real quick, Simon says, he's watching on YouTube. I don't see it, but I think the idea is to expand the market. A Big 12, a big deal in Mexico is a huge reach there. But it's not going to do that, Simon. That's my whole point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the little-minded Iowan who doesn't see the big picture. Clearly, Brett Yormark is more accomplished in marketing than me. Right? He used to have an office next to Jay-Z, for God's sake. I'm sitting here in my office all by myself in my basement in Bondurant. Right? Clearly not Jay-Z. I don't think that'll happen. Having a couple of games in Mexico every year is not going to be like, oh, man, the Mexican citizens are now going to betray their love of football for Big 12 women's basketball. That's just me. He's done a lot of really good things, this Yormark has. I don't want this to just be me all shitting on the guy. I think he's been really, really good. This seems like a reach. We'll wait and get more details. That's generally the course with all this stuff. You got to wait and see. You got to see the details. But I've wrapped my mind around this. I've sent some text messages out. I've said to people, "Can you sell me on this? Can you please sell me on this?" And I haven't had a single person be able to sell me on it. I guess it'll be a cool trip for the student athletes. That's a good thing, I guess. But I'm in this for the fans. And I don't see any way that this makes any of this better for the fans. And I'm probably making too big of a deal out of it, to be honest. Like, this is probably going to be like a couple games a year. It's not like they're moving the damn championship there. But, like, this is a miss in my mind. This is a big miss. All right. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the ones who have tuned in here live. If you are listening on the Iowa Everywhere podcast, please rate, subscribe, review. Remember, you can follow us on TikTok now, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Appreciate my sponsor, our friends at Circus Sports Iowa from the Channel Seed Studio. I'm signing off. I will be back on Thursday morning with Chris Hassel on Two Guys Named Chris. Have a good rest of your Tuesday evening.